So I'm making another one of these videos for working on speech sounds at home. The last one we did the velar stops k and g, and I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. Those were earlier developing sounds. Those are like 4 to 5 years old, but the sounds that we definitely struggle with the most in speech language pathology sessions are liquids, and ol. Oh, and you'll probably notice that R is upside down. That's actually the way it's supposed to be. You'll see it right side up R written as the phonetic symbol, but that's actually the rolled R that happens in Spanish. That is the right side up one. The upside down one is the, just the plain old and R and R that we have. And it doesn't really matter why they're called liquids. It's kind of that thing where, when you translate American movie titles into other languages, it's kind of like weird. Like I think Despicable Me in Japan is Big Thief Gru's Moon Theft or something weird like that. It's that kind of thing, except with Greek instead of with Japanese. But regardless, those sounds are by far two of the hardest ones that will impact intelligibility really severely, and also make it more likely that kids will feel self-conscious later in life when they're trying to communicate and people make fun of them for sounding like babies when they talk. And like I said, they're later developing. We don't expect to see R and L totally mastered until, depending on who you ask, between like ages 6 and 8, somewhere in there. So if you have like a 4, 5, 6-year-old struggling with R and L, it's perfectly normal. That's a normal thing. So I'm going to start with and you'll probably notice if you have a kid that struggles with or L, they'll do what's called gliding, where they'll replace those sounds with glide sounds. And this actually does make sense, because instead of saying red, they'll say wed, or instead of saying light, they'll say yike. Or yite, excuse me. And wa and ya, those are glides, because they're taking one sound and gliding into another one. Wa is really oo and ah, wa. And so is ya, it's e and ya. And if you really want to get into the weeds with it, they're really, glides is kind of one way of thinking of them. You can also think of them as diphthongs, because that's what happens when you take two vowel sounds and combine them, like with ow, right? It's ah and oo, ow. Like couch or something like that. So yeah, so ooh-ah is wa and ee-ah is ya, and those are the sounds kids usually replace R and L with. So to get to R, there's 2 ways. I'm going to use this the same sticky note as like a tongue, like you're looking at the tongue sideways like this. To get you're kind of doing this. This is what we call bunched R, where you're taking your tongue and you're stuffing it as far in the back of your mouth as you can. I always tell kids to try to pretend they're stuffing marshmallows in their mouths. Of course, don't actually do this because you'll, it's fine, but you want to be careful not to choke yourself. But that's part of why your tongue will go in that spot, to keep you from choking yourself. So if you're stuffing marshmallows in your mouth, your tongue is backing up and blocking the esophagus and everything. And you can hear how right now everything I'm saying sounds very R-like. That's because I just got it back there. And you notice that I'm smiling too. That's really important, because if you're smiling, you can't say wa. Wa uses lip rounding. So if I'm trying to say a word like water, water, it's really hard. So we're encouraging kids to smile can help eliminate the rounding of the lips, which is one thing that'll keep them from saying W. They also will replace will replace R with so a word like teacher would be teacho, or something like that, or maybe different vowel sounds. It really, it doesn't matter, because the point is, whatever they're doing, they're not getting that tongue far enough back. Now, how do you get them to do that? And by the way, there's another way to get to R too. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But how do you get bunched R? You can't see it really, and so without that visual component, that means we only have auditory cues and tactile. Kids have to feel something in their mouth. So I tell them to take the blade of their tongue, not the tip, not the root, but the part in the middle, the part that does most of the work anyway, and like put it on top of your mouth, like you're trying to get peanut butter off the top of your mouth, and then slide it back. And you'll feel how, you can see, you already heard me start to get R-like. You'll feel how when you get past the hard palate and it starts feeling soft, on the soft palate of the velum, that's where you want to be. So when you start to feel things get soft, you're in the right place. And if you try to say like that, I'm trying to say it's not sounding like it's far enough back. So that's one way to get that bunched R. Take the top of the blade of the tongue, stick it to the hard palate, the roof of the mouth, and then start sliding it back until you start feeling some softness around here, and that's about where you want to be. And if you need to use something, I've got like grape flavored tongue depressors. I sometimes have to use those little flossers, you know, they have the floss that's attached to the thing that you can use to move around. Those actually have a little hole in them that you can kind of hook into the tongue, or like hook it like that and just kind of slide it back. That helps too, because some kids might have trouble with getting their tongue all that far back. But like I was saying in the other video, we're trying to get isolation first. We're not trying to say any words. We're not definitely not trying to say any phrases or sentences. We're just trying to get So every second they can hold that they're increasing that muscle and that muscle memory. Their mouth is getting used to what that feels like. So you want to just say, okay, let's growl like a dog. How long can you keep that going? And try to make a game out of it. And then you know, you can start putting it with words, but really I spend a lot of time just on the isolation section. Now the other way to get R is what's called retroflex R, and that's this. So you're basically, and this is a little bit more visual. You know, you can open your mouth and you're trying to get your tongue to touch the soft palate again with the tip. It doesn't have to quite go that far back, but hear how it sounds like R when I do that. So, and you can see if you open your mouth, you go So your tongue's kind of going and you're trying to get it that way. Some kids have an easier time with that than they have with bunched R, and it doesn't matter whichever way is easier for them. Okay. This is, again, just a quick and dirty sort of intro to these things. There's a lot more that could be said about it, but just to kind of give you something to help at home. La. Again, this one is more visual than bunched are, because the tip of your tongue is touching the bump behind your top teeth, which is called the alveolar ridge. So when you feel that bump with the tip of your tongue, la 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 la, that's how you do it. And it's the same, you know, the other sounds that we have, that same kind of thing happening are t and d, but t and d, those are stops, because it's not just the tip of your tongue that's touching the alveolar ridge, it's really the edge of your tongue all the way around. You can kind of see that, right? D versus la la la. You can't, I'm not really, the edges on it. So it's kind of like, almost like your tongue is cupping your, the alveolar ridge going all the way around the top of your mouth for t and duh. But for la, it's just a tip, la 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 la. And that's a little different than ol. So, because we don't say like pencila, we say pencil, right? We don't say love, we say love. Right? It sounds kind of weird when you hold it out like that, but and it's different. The difference is really slight, but I always kind of think of it like you're trying to swallow your tongue when you're saying "ol," like a word like pencil. You know, it's kind of I don't know, it feels fatter somehow down here, and you know, it's not really terribly important exactly what's happening, but just kind of like being aware of what it feels like, it can help a lot. And sometimes you might show a kid like where to put their tongue, go la la, and you'll see this. And you got to tell them, no, keep it inside your mouth, close your teeth even, and tell them, you feel that bump behind your teeth, you know, touch it. Like imagine again with like the chapstick or the candy or whatever, you know, you put it on the tip of their tongue and say, okay, we're going to stick that right behind your top teeth instead of behind your bottom teeth, like we did for k and g. And you're not going to keep it there for long, because you're going to take it off to go la, you know, so it's like you're pulling that glue la, and finally letting it come down. And kids tend to have a slightly easier time, in my experience, getting la than they do getting but like I said, those are the two sounds that I think are far and away, I think most people would agree, the ones that are the most difficult to correct, and the ones that will impact intelligibility the most. S and z, we'll get to those too. Those can be kind of difficult, but they don't really impact intelligibility because a lot of people lisp. You know, lisping is pretty common. But like I said, we'll get to that one in a different one, different video. Hopefully this helped. And yeah, if you have any questions or want to ask anything in the comment section, or if you're one of the kids I work with, you can contact me directly. So good luck, and hope this helps.